Hello, VC, and all of my record collecting brothers and sisters. It's that time of year again. The Mega Record Fair is just around the corner. This time around, I'm going to get into the spirit and share with you some info, tips, and best practices to make any trip to the big event fun and enjoyable. Now, this will be divided into a 6-episode series, so sit back and enjoy what I hope will be a fun ride. So if you're new here, welcome in, and if you're a repeat offender, welcome back. I'm Johnny, you're watching Channel 910, and this is the Road to Den Bosch. So before we get fully engaged in conversation, I ask that you like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you have something to say, drop it down there in the comments. And if you know somebody who might like this video, definitely share it with them. It helps us out over here. As stated in a previous episode, just attending the Mega Record Fair can be very expensive. So you want to save as many dollars, euros, or pounds as you can on the actual records that you're buying. So let's take a look at the economics behind a successful Mega Record Fair for you. So definitely prepare your wallet. And really what I mean by this is go into this record fair understanding how this record fair works. If you're anything like me, and this is one of your first times, making these kind of purchases in Europe, you might be surprised at how some of the things operate here. Now, probably the most obvious thing, but I'm going to mention it anyway, is that the euro is the local currency here. If the currency from your home country is different, then you're going to have to do some kind of exchange before arriving. I don't think that there's any kind of currency exchange service offered at the record fair. I've never had to use it because I live here, so I have euros, but I don't think they offer it. So the recommendation there is to do it probably at the airport or some kind of currency exchange service outside of the fair. And remember, the euro is not necessarily going to be a one-for-one swap with your home currency. For instance, the US dollar is $1.16 to 1 euro. So 100 euros is actually going to cost you $116 in an exchange. And I know there's at least one ATM on site at the record fair. So, you can pop in a debit card and pull out euros, but there's going to be inevitably some type of transaction fees with that too. So you're just compounding there. But you're probably asking yourself, why is cash so important anyway? While most vendors at the record fair are not averse to technology, there are some that still may only take cash. This tends to be especially true for German vendors for some reason. I live in Germany, and I've noticed a lot of the smaller record fairs in Germany as well. A lot of it is cash only. So you just have to be prepared for, all different outcomes, and cash is going to be one of those. Ultimately, you don't want to be caught holding this grail that you've been looking for years, only to find out that the only way to pay for it's with cash, and you don't have any. So having cash is crucial, but even if a vendor does not take debit cards, credit cards, they want cash, they may take something like Venmo or PayPal. But keep in mind with things like PayPal, if you don't have enough funds in your PayPal account and it defaults to using like your attached debit card, you'll actually get charged to use the debit card instead of using your PayPal funds. So the recommendation there is, if you don't have an immediate funds transfer system set up with your PayPal, before you even go to the record fair, get the transfer done so you have enough in your PayPal to cover any kind of purchase that may require it. And honestly, PayPal's conversion rates for different currencies is kind of garbage. It's worse than what you'll get at most currency exchanges. Also, any vendor, I guarantee you, they're going to insist that you use friends and family so that they don't have any kind of fees. So ultimately, PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, these are not they should not be your preferred method of payment. This is a contingency where it's like if everything else fails, in case of emergency, break glass, this is what your PayPal type services should be. Also, don't be afraid to haggle. A lot of these prices you're going to see at this record fair, they will be a little higher than what you're expecting to see, but you have to understand that these vendors had to pay for their booth. They had to pay for their transportation to get out. Like I mentioned, some of these folks are traveling halfway across the globe to get here, and it's moving that kind of inventory is not cheap. So there's a lot of like overhead expenses. They're also staying at hotels. They also have to eat. So all of this is factored in, and they're trying to at least, they tack on 1% or 2% to try to get something out of what they're selling there. You can't really blame them, but at the same time, you want to get a deal as well. So what I recommend is if you find something at a vendor's booth that's, either high dollar item, or if you're buying a stack of wax from one vendor, see if they can do some kind of discount. I think kind of the rule of thumb is if you're spending a pretty decent amount of money, 10% is about what you're going to get. Sometimes you can get a little better than that. Some places may not offer quite 10%. It really just depends. And this is why I said you kind of have to haggle a little bit. But don't be afraid to ask the question. The worst they can say is no, and then you just pay full price. So just kind of be ready to have the conversations, but don't be completely heartbroken. If you don't get the deal of the century, you're still going to be able to walk away with what it is you came to get. Events like this can get out of control with spending because there's and I speak from experience. There's so much to be had at this record fair, and you have to have a little bit of self-control, and that's where setting this budget kind of comes into play. If you know that you can only afford to spend a certain amount, then go in knowing what that number is and definitely stick to it. And like I said, it can be difficult. And I mean, there's an ATM right out there in the lobby, so you can just go pull more out. But you need to just kind of already have the number set, put the debit card away if that's what it takes, and just use the cash. So an easy way that I've found to kind of keep myself on track with spending is create a list of prioritized items. Remember the want list we talked about in a previous episode? You can actually take that list, and instead of just having it random or alphabetized, you can have it ranked so that your top priority items are at the top. And this will kind of help keep you on track by, keeping you focused on getting those first and then working your way down. So if you do reach your budget, at least you've hit the ones that you really wanted to get. I do understand that as collectors, we can go overboard sometimes, and we do love our hobby, but sometimes spending the money that we don't have is not the right answer. So if you're going to go to the Mega Record Fair, or any record fair for that matter, make sure that you're being responsible with your finances, prioritize what it is you're there to get, and just do what you can afford to. Have fun with it, but be smart. But that's all I'm going to bore you with about economics today. The next episode will be focusing on something very exciting: logistics. But until we meet up in that next episode, be cool, love each other, and if you're spinning, you're winning.